26. Right. 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 Um, okay. 31. Okay. Now we have done the definition of pragmatics so far, and we defined regularity. I'd like somebody to just tell us briefly what the term regularity stands for. Stands for. What does regularity stand for? What do you mean by regularity?
دكتور السوشيال جروبس والاكسبيرينس نولج.
Social groups and
experience knowledge.
Yeah. Okay. Social group or social community or group, and should experience and knowledge. Now, most cases of misunderstanding arise because the speaker is unaware of certain aspects of those should, experience and knowledge. So, okay. Now, since language reflects thought, it reflects civilization, it reflects habits, social habits. Remember, we said that pragmatics deals with language use, so it's a social act. It's a social act. So, in order to use language properly, one needs to immerse, IMMER, S-E. One needs to immerse in the culture. In other words, he needs to be aware of the cultural background of the language, not just the use of, I mean, having enormous lists of vocabulary or knowing some structures. So regularity refers, in order to to achieve regularity, first we must have a social community. We must belong. We must belong to a social community that has shared knowledge and experience. Okay, so for instance, when somebody asks you, suppose that a British is learning Arabic. I mean, he has to be aware of all aspects of the Arabic, of the Arab, they call it Arab civilization, Arab culture or Arab civilization. So, for instance, when you meet an English speaking person, what do you say first in a conversation? What do you say?
Hello. We say
Culturally,
hello.
yeah, culturally, we say hello or
Yes.
hi or hi. Uh, then what would be the response?
How are you?
How are you? Okay, and the response
How
would
is it?
be,
How is it going?
how's it going? How are things?
What's
Okay,
up?
what's up? Yeah, this is how they start. Sometimes they start talking about the weather, as you know. I mean, they would say it's freezing today. It's a bloody Turkish bath. It's a bloody Turkish bath. You know what that means? A bloody Turkish bath. It's very hot. It's very hot. So in English, for instance, when you want to start talking to someone to strike a conversation, uh, one would talk about the weather, although it doesn't add to the listeners' information. When somebody say the weather is freezing today, it's a bloody Turkish bath. It's spitting. It's raining cats and dogs. Yeah, they start talking about the weather, then they would say, I mean, how are you? What would be the response to how are you?
Fine. What about you?
Yeah, fine, thank you. And you, for instance, sometimes they would say, and you, how about you? Okay, right. Uh, what sort of conversation two native speakers of Arabic would have culturally, which is culturally accepted?
Do you mean about in Arabic like مرحبا? كيف
Okay,
حالك? Like this?
okay, okay. Can let's have a
شو
conversation. Yeah,
شو
who's
الأخبار
talking?
زي هيك.
Is that Osama?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, Osama. Yeah, just
يعني
give us A
ما
B A B A.
مرحبا. مرحبا.
Okay, then
كيفك؟ شو الأخبار؟
okay, right, and the response would be
تمام. أخبارك أنت كيفك؟
okay. Or sometimes they say Alhamdulillah. Yes.
Yes. الحمد
Yeah,
لله. Yes. Culture.
the author of this book, George Yule, lived in Saudi Arabia for some time. He joined the university there, and whenever he was asked, "How are you?" he would say, "Fine, not bad." He thought that people didn't like that. He sounded like a stranger. You know why? He knew Arabic. He knew Arabic grammar. He had an enormous list of Arabic words, but he didn't know at that when he first got there. He didn't know the cultural background of the Arabic language, So he that's what he wrote here. He thought that people were upset, sort of upset, when somebody says, "How are you?" He would say, "Fine, not bad." Okay, so culturally speaking, the response and acceptable, cultural uh, use of Arabic in certain parts of the Arab world would be Alhamdulillah. They would say Alhamdulillah. For instance, in some other countries, like you said, you might say Tamam. Yes, Tamam. How if somebody says see you tomorrow? See you tomorrow. What would be the response?
See ya.
Inshallah.
See you tomorrow. In English, what would they say?
See you, or see ya.
Okay.
Yes.
And the response?
For sure.
Yeah, sure.
Or see you when I see you.
See you when I see you. Or for sure. Yeah, they say sure sometimes. Now, in our culture, can we say sure? Is that the only
No,
word
we can't.
used? What do we say?
نحكي إن شاء الله.
Yeah, that's it. This is something cultural. So we should have shared knowledge and experience, because Arabic is God-centered. Arabic is God-centered. Almost in every situation, we refer to God. So when we start doing something, we say Bismillah. Yes. How are you? I'm fine, thank you, Alhamdulillah. For instance, see you tomorrow, inshallah. Sure, but inshallah. Yeah. So language and culture work together. That's what we mean by regularity. Okay. Do you have any questions so far? Okay, let me ask you another question. Now, pragmatics deals with, among other things, pragmatics deals with the speaker's meaning. Why are speakers sometimes misunderstood by listeners?
Because he doesn't know the paragraph, the language, the background, I mean,
Okay.
or the culture. Exactly.
Okay, that's one thing. That's
Or
one thing.
he don't know what he exactly mean.
What he means.
Sometime he ask him again to get sure about what he said, to
Okay.
know exactly what he mean.
And sometimes he tries to communicate, but communication fails. Why? Why does communicate? That's why there are frequently used expressions in English. For instance, thank you, sorry, pardon me, right? Please. Of course, these are key words in conversation. Yeah, thank you. One would sound rude if he doesn't say thank you. Please, of course, please. Sorry. Now, when somebody gets misunderstood, yeah, when somebody gets misunderstood, sometimes he means well, but the listener misinterprets the message. That's why the speaker says, but sorry, I didn't mean to say that. He said something, his message was misinterpreted by the listener. So the speaker says, sorry, but I didn't mean to say that. Why does this sometimes happen?
Maybe, doctor, because the speaker doesn't speak clearly.
Or maybe the listener,
You mean
he
the
don't,
native speaker? The native speaker doesn't speak clearly?
Doctor, the accent.
Yes,
There is a problem with the accent.
Accent. Accent means
Yes.
لكنة.
or the
You mean the
listener, he
intonation.
don't know the expression, what he mean by the expression that the speaker said.
Okay. Okay.
Because the listener and the speaker, they don't have the same knowledge about the
Okay.
expression. So the speaker says something, the listener don't understand what he say. So there is a misunderstanding here. So
Okay,
he
this
said
could
like,
be this could be the
yeah,
case when we have a native speaker talking to a foreign language learner,
yes.
a non-native speaker of English. Yeah. Okay, this could be the case. The tone plays a vital role. Tone اللي هي نغمة الصوت أو نبرة الصوت. So for instance, suppose that an employee did something wrong and the employer says, you did good job. How does that sound? What does he mean to say? What does the boss mean to say? Is that a complaint or
Doctor, may you repeat it? May you repeat it?
an employee does something wrong, okay?
Okay.
And the boss says, you did good job.
It means that he did a mistake.
Yeah, he's cynical. I mean,
Yes,
he's
it is a mistake.
sarcastic. The employer sounds sarcastic. He's cynical. He's making fun of him.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so we can, I mean, there are several factors that affect the speaker's meaning. Some of these are body language. Body language, okay? That's one. Two, intonation, the tone used by the speaker. Three, the context. The context. So there are so many factors that affect the speaker's meaning. This is why sometimes communication fails. Okay. Right. Now we have reference and inference. Reference means using the certain linguistic forms. These could be nouns, they could be phrases, they could be pronouns. We use certain linguistic forms by the speaker or the writer in order to help the listener or the writer identify something or someone. So we have reference and we have inference. What is inference? These two are part and parcel. I mean, in order to communicate well, we have to use reference and inference. Now, what is inference? Inference is using additional knowledge to figure out what the speaker or the writer means to say.
Guess the meaning?
Yeah, it's using additional knowledge in order to figure out, to make sense of what the speaker or the writer means. Sometimes we have to guess, we have to figure out what is meant by a certain reference. You see what I mean?
Yes, this is sometime happens when, let's say, people from village talk to people they live in city. They
Yeah,
are
sure.
both of them a native speaker, but the place here, how I said, you know, because of the place here, they can like figure out or guess what he mean.
Yeah, this,
Even
I
if,
mean,
yeah,
yeah, we
yes.
need to use inference within the culture, within the same culture, within the same language, because there are dialectal differences. There are different dialects. Sometimes a certain word used in a certain language may have a completely different meaning. Some word which has a good connotation, a good sense, may turn to have a bad sense, or the exact opposite in another dialect, even within the same language, let alone different languages. So as I said, suppose this is used when we want to draw a distinction between literal and figurative meaning. Literal and figurative. So for instance, when somebody says, I'm going nuts, here we need to use inference. I'm going nuts. Now, is there a reference to the literal meaning of nuts or the figurative meaning?
Yes.
I mean, in other words, should this be interpreted literally or figuratively?
Figuratively meaning.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure.
Mm.
What I mean, when somebody says I'm going nuts, what does that mean?
Crazy. I am crazy.
Yeah, it means so we use inference here to learn to recognize that nuts is not used in the literal sense of the word. When somebody says he's over the moon,
Very happy.
he's over the moon.
A lot of
That's
happy
not
or
literal,
very
is it?
happy.
It means that he's excited. Yes,
Yes.
excited, extremely happy.
Yes.
Right. Now in Arabic, when we say fil mishmish, what does that mean? In certain dialects.
It's
It's
impossible to
when
happen.
birds fly.
That's very good. Yeah, as native
impossible to
speakers,
happen.
as native speakers of Arabic, you can tell that this is a figurative usage. It's not literal. Sometimes we land in trouble. We land in trouble because what is literal is misinterpreted as figurative, and vice versa. And vice versa. So, for instance, is it true to say the sun will one day, now the sun rises in the east, yes? The sun rises in the east. Suppose that somebody said the sun will one day rise in the west. Would you accept that?
Yes, doctor, because in our culture,
Yeah.
we believe that one day the sun will rise from the west.
Yeah.
In
Who
our
is that?
religion.
Dina, or is that Dina or Natalie?
Dina, doctor, Dina.
Yeah, that's very good, Dina. Now, according to our culture, which is based on certain divine sources, one day, yeah, the sun will rise in the west. Now, some prominent scholars misinterpreted this figuratively. They said, how can the sun rise in the west when it should rise in the east? Now, this causes misunderstanding, misinterpretation. You see? So we have to use inference in order. We have to sorry. 45. Right. We need to use inference in order to figure out many aspects of language. I've seen some prominent scholars misinterpret some facts as figurative. So, for instance, I've seen a translation of an English translation of the glorious Quran, where a prominent figure, millions of copies of his translation have been published so far, and he says that angels don't exist; they are figurative. They stand for virtue. We have virtue, virtue, VIRTUE. So he says that angels are not real objects; they don't exist. The word angel stands for good, for virtue. This is how meaning can be violated. Yeah. So reference and inference go hand in hand. We can't understand reference without having reference. Let's have a few examples before we proceed. Let's just have these. Okay. Let's have these examples, and I'd like you to identify the object in each case. These are the gifts. Just write these down. These are the gifts. I bought them last night. What does them refer to?
To gifts.
Gifts.
These are the gifts.
Gifts.
I bought them last night. Usama, can you translate this?
تلك هي الهدايا التي اشتريتها في الأمس.
These are.
نعم.
These are هذه.
هذه الهدايا التي اشتريتها في الأمس.
التي اشتريتها بالأمس. Okay. The next sentence. Those are my friends. I met them last year.
هؤلاء أصدقائي الذين قابلتهم في السنة الماضية.
Okay. الذين قابلتهم. Okay. These are the cats. I fed them an hour ago.
تلك هي القطط.
These are the cats. I fed them an hour ago.
تلك هي القطط التي أطعمتها قبل متى؟ نسيت.
Okay. an hour ago.
Yes, قبل ساعة.
Yeah, منذ ساعة. Okay. These are the keys. I lost them last week.
تلك هي المفاتيح التي أضعتها في الأسبوع الماضي.
Okay. These are the goals. I held them last month.
These are the what?
These are the goals.
Yes.
Yeah. I helped them last week.
Helped?
I helped them last week.
What does the meaning of goals?
Goals.
Goats. تلك هي نعم تلك هي الماعز.
Okay.
التي ساعدتها.
Girls.
Girls. GIRLS. Girls.
هؤلاء هم اللواتي ساعدتهم الأسبوع الفائت.
Again.
هؤلاء هم الفتيات اللواتي ساعدتهن الأسبوع الفائت.
Yeah, that's very good. Now notice that in all cases here, English uses the pronoun them. So the gifts, I bought them. Friends, I met them. Cats, I fed them. Keys, I lost them. Girls, I helped them. So English uses them with all subjects, with all nouns. We have gifts, friends, cats, keys, and girls. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now in English, there is no difference. We say the gifts, I bought them. My friends, I met them. Cats, I fed them. Keys, I lost them. Now, as we need to relate pragmatics to translation. I mean, you are all, I guess, translation major students, yeah?
Yes.
So this is how languages use different references. Now, in English, the gifts, al-hadaya. In Arabic, in English, it's I bought them. التي اشتريتها. Yes? اشتريتها. My friends, I met them. قابلتهم. Why is it قابلتهم?
Because this is Arabic.
Yeah, because it refers to human.
Yes.
Human beings. Yeah? These are the cats. I fed them. Again, in English, they use them. In Arabic, we use I fed them. أطعمتها, yes?
أطعمتهم.
Yeah, أطعمتها, not أطعمتهم. Because أطعمتهم, the suffix hum, yeah, refers to human beings. So Arabic makes a distinction between plus human and minus human. يعني العاقل وغير العاقل. In Arabic, we use different pronouns. These are my keys. I lost them. أضعتها, yes? Not أضعتهم. وإذا كان these are the women. These are the women. I helped them. What do we say?
هن.
ساعدتهن.
Yes.
So we have to take into account differences, not just, I mean, linguistic differences that reflect cultural background. Okay. Elephants are very huge, okay, or very big animals. They live in the forest. What does they here refer to?
To
elephants.
Elephants, yeah.
The
Yeah,
elephants.
Dina, can you translate this?
Yes, دكتور. بس
Yeah.
معلش تعيدها.
Elephants are very big animals. They live in the forest.
الفيلة حيوانات ضخمة جدا تعيش في الغابة.
No, we need.
Yeah.
Yeah, تعيشوا في الغابة.
تعيش في الغابة.
Not يعيشون, yeah. Do we say
Yes.
تعيشوا or يعيشون?
تعيشوا.
تعيشوا, because I mean, in English, they may refer to human beings, the boys, they. It may refer to masculine, the boys or the men, they. It may refer to feminine, plural, like we say, يعيشنا, yes. If it's feminine, plural, then we say يعيشنا. Now, they may also refer to dual. Both boys arrived late. They missed the train. Can anybody translate this? Now, this is closely related to translation. Reference.
May you repeat it, Doctor?
These are the two boys. These are the two boys. They missed the train.
هؤلاء هم الولدان الذين فاتهم القطار.
Again.
هؤلاء هم الولدان الذين فاتهم القطار.
الذين.
نعم.
Is it? الذين.
اللذين.
اللذان.
Because we have in English we have singular and plural. In Arabic we have singular, dual, and plural. So as we translate, we have to take into account the fact that Arabic has dual. So when we have both, it means two. Right. These are the two women. These are the two women. They ask many questions. These are the two women. They ask many questions.
هؤلاء الامرأتان اللتان تسألان الكثير من الأسئلة.
اللتان تسألان, yes, very good, yeah.
Thank you.
So we have to take, I mean, as we translate, we have to draw on pragmatic use of language. For next time, we'll, I think we're running short of time. Next time we'll have attributive use.